Welcome everyone to our workshop on workplace culture, practical ways to support and retain your staff. Before we commence today, I would like to acknowledge the Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the traditional owners of this land and pay my respects to elders past and present. So my name is Bronwyn Kidd. I am the Program Manager of the Business Tasmania Service, and today I'm joined by Matt Gall from the TCCI. And Matt will do an introduction on himself shortly. But before I hand over to Matt, I would like to do a short overview of some of the key services that we have available for you, the Tasmanian businesses, through Business Tasmania. So Business Tasmania exists to help you, our business owners of Tasmania, to either start, run, grow, or even perhaps exit the businesses through the services that we have available. The service consists of a really fantastic helpline service. So we have a phone line that you can access anytime, Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. You can call us and ask any business related question, and it's our job to connect you with the best service that's available to support you on your business journey. So really no question is too silly to ask Business Tasmania. We can support you with a whole range of categories, from finance support to grant programs to marketing help, also license inquiries. If you're unsure, you're more than welcome to give us a call and we'll help point you in the right direction. So we are a statewide service and we cover all of Tasmania, and we specifically focus on businesses that are within the small business category. So that's 19 or less full-time equivalent staff. However, if you do hire more than 19 staff, you're more than welcome to access our services, and we'll see how we can assist. So here's a range of the services that we do have on offer. We cover a broad spectrum of support. We do events and workshops just like this one today, and we also do in-person workshops across the state at various times throughout the year. And we do have a really great event calendar on our website that you can access to see events that are happening in your area. You can search via location or also topic to find events, not just that we're running, but also other government-supported events tailored for small businesses. We have the ability to connect you with lots of different advice and referral services. So services that support small businesses that are government funded. We have connections with a lot of them, if not all of them. So if you're unsure of where to go for support, you can give us a call and we will connect you with those services. We also have a brand new website, which we're really excited about, and that hosts a whole host of information and resources. For example, we have a new grant finder tool, which I highly recommend you check out, and you can use that to search for any funding opportunities that are currently available for you. And we also have a tools and support finder, which has a range of resources that you can download that will help support you on your business journey. We also have a business advice service that I'll go into now. So the new business support service and the Tasmanian business advice service are advisory services that are run in-house within the small business team here at the department. So if you've been running a business for over 12 months, so you've had your ABN registered for over 12 months, you are eligible for up to 5 hours of free advice with an experienced business advisor each financial year. And if you have had an ABN for less than 12 months, or perhaps you're looking at registering your ABN or you're just starting out in business, you can access what we call the new business support service, through which you get up to 2 hours of free support each financial year. And we have a range of advisors who are listed online. Each of their profiles are made available online for you to read. So you can find an advisor that has relevant experience to the issues that you may need support with. You can find one whose profile matches. If you choose not to select one, we'll match you with the advisor in your local area. So you can meet locally with your advisor if they are from your area. Otherwise, they'd be more than happy to organise online or phone appointments for you from anywhere across Tasmania. To access the service, you can visit businessadvice.tas.gov.au or scan the QR code on the screen there. You can also give us a call at Business Tasmania. Our number is 1800 440 026, and one of our friendly team members will be able to sign you up over the phone. I mentioned before our event calendar, so here's the link to the event calendar. You can also navigate to it from our homepage on our website. We have a few more events coming up that are booked in currently. So we have a series running at the moment specifically for hospitality businesses. The next event is actually happening this afternoon. And then we have one tomorrow as well on cash flow costs and control, hospitality, finance, essentials. There's still time to register if you're in that industry and interested. And the other series of events that we're running at the moment is this one that you're listening to now, the Cost of Doing Business series, which we're partnering with the TCCI on. And they are running most Tuesdays until the end of June at this time, so 12 till 1 p.m. And if you're not already registered for those, I highly encourage you to jump online and pop in a registration. That's it from me today. I do encourage you all to connect with us. Like I said, no question is too silly to ask the Business Tasmania team. We are here to help. It is a free service, and we do our best to refer you on to services that will support you or help you with the services that we have available through our own department. Our number is 1800 440 026, so you can send us an email to ask@business.tas.gov.au. We're also on social media, and the other way you can get connected with the latest business news is our newsletter. So there will be a link popped into the chat shortly that you can click on to sign up if you're not already on our newsletter. It's weekly, and it's one of the best places, if not the best place, to find out about business-related news in Tasmania. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you, everybody, and I'll hand over to Matt to get on to the presentation for today.
Thank you very much, Bronwyn, and I can also collaborate how great the team at Business Tas are. We work pretty closely together, so quite often receive some referrals from the team over there, which is fantastic. So my name's Matt Gall. My title at the TCCI is Business Advisor as well, but it's really just to encompass the broad amount of roles that we cover. I cover everything from HR advice, workplace relations advice, and I'm also a workplace trainer as well. I've got an extensive background in the hospitality industry. I saw that we had a few participants from that sector, so hello to you all. I was running hotels for around 24 years, so practical hands-on people experience. So yeah, I've got the pleasure of hosting the second session of the Cost of Doing Business series today, which is a little bit about workplace culture and some practical ways to support and retain your staff. So I am conscious of the time and the fact that you've chosen to sacrifice your lunch hours today to join me, so I will move along at a reasonable pace. But if anybody needs me to slow down or clarify, please just pop something into the chat or pop your hand up, and I'll be happy to answer questions as we go, or I will stick around post-session to have a chat as well. So the first part I want to talk about is why retention actually matters in your business, because a lot of businesses do focus on purely on recruitment. How do we attract people? How do we fill vacancies? Where do we advertise? But quite often you'll find that a bigger opportunity is to really hang on to the great people that you already have. So we've got a little bit about that. So my first point on that is replacing staff is expensive. Keeping your good staff is, well, that's just good business. It helps minimise the costs of recruitment, advertising. It reduces your onboarding time. It minimises the disruption to productivity. Doesn't put any strain on your staff who are still there as well, and also helps minimise disruptions to customers. So I'll dive into each of those points in more detail. So your recruitment costs, that can be anything from just the time to create position descriptions, put together your job advertisements. For example, I think your average 30-day seek ad at the moment is around $100. And if you've got a larger business, for example, and you need to extend that time, then that cost can actually blow out quite quickly. And in particular, when as fantastic as Seek is, you can get a lot of people just clicking on every advertisement. So you've got to then invest the time and energy in vetting all of those applications, when I'd probably say that maybe 20 to 30% are actually going to be fit for purpose. So probably one of the big things in the cost of turnover I like to focus on is a recent study we did on onboarding time. I like to say that your average onboarding time isn't just the induction process. When you take on a new staff member, unless you get somebody who's really experienced and well-rounded in your sector, your average onboarding time for any business is approximately 90 days. So you're looking at almost the full probation period, and that equates to a quarter of a year's wages just in the new hire itself. And that's notwithstanding the time that you have to have in, say, somebody supporting them, outfitting them with any equipment, training investments, whether it be qualifications or just simply showing them how to do the job. Then you've got to also replace the person who is mentoring them. So yeah, the costs for onboarding new hires can balloon out quite quickly. And if you think about it, if you've got a high turnover business and you do that, let's just say, for example, 3 or 4 times a year, you could be looking at, say, a figure of around $100,000 just in wages, just trying to onboard that right person. And then in that time as well, we're looking at the loss of productivity, because you could have a very small team, say 5 people. If you've got one person looking after the new hire, then you've got another person filling in for the person who's looking after the new hire. It really limits your ability to, say, produce products, manage your clients, and just really drill in on those forward-facing relationships as well. So while most people are understanding, it still can have a short-term negative impact on your productivity in your business. And that can also bleed directly into the next point, on the pressure on the existing staff. Because as I was saying, essentially the 2 people, the one looking after the new hire and then the person sort of taking on half of the other person's job, are going to feel a lot more pressure. In the beginning, I did notice there was a question around supporting mental health. This is a key point in that space, because putting that extra pressure on a small team can really balloon those effects out as well, and then have a little bit of a snowball effect within your business as well. Because then if you have an extra person go down, then the pressure just continues to exponentially grow. And if we happen to lose a long-time staff member, there's the inherent risk of the loss of knowledge. A lot of people, particularly in a small business, I'd say, gain knowledge via osmosis. So they just basically pick up things as they go, wear many hats, as the colloquialism goes. So if you lose that person, you could even be inadvertently losing key knowledge that you didn't even realise that you hadn't recorded in a policy or process. And then suddenly you've just got a big knowledge gap. Or if a person had a specialised skill set that you are then forced to replace, that will also end up costing you in the time space as well. And as I touched briefly on before, we've also got the customer disruption. It can be whether the team's just stretched a little bit thin, so turnaround times are a little bit slower, or it could be that those long-standing staff actually had formed part of the key relationship with the client as well. Some clients are only comfortable in dealing with somebody who they're quite familiar with and have built a rapport with. So there's just a few points there, really, to just drill in how important it is to make sure that you do your absolute best to retain those good staff. Did anybody like to drop any questions in around that at this stage, or we can keep those for the end if you prefer? I'm quite happy to pause for a second if somebody wants to drop something in.
There's no questions in the chat just yet, Matt, but I'll keep
So
an eye on it in case anyone pops one in.
fantastic, thank you. So the next thing is we're just looking at good culture, and it's generally more simple than you might think. When people think about culture, they're thinking about the big perks, the rewards, the company cars, the great big corner office in the building overlooking the city vista. But some of these things are actually, quite unrealistic, particularly if you're trying to run a small business and just manage your overheads. So those things can look like quite simple things like clear expectations. When you bring somebody on board and you really clearly define their role and let them know exactly what they're going to be doing from day one, it really takes that guesswork out, and it can also minimize a lot of stress, because if you're just dragged into a role and then said, okay, we're just going to get you to help around the place and we'll fill you in as you go along, you may become slightly apprehensive. Thinking, what am I actually going to be doing today? Is there actually going to be anything for me to be doing, or am I just going to be manning the broom yet again for the eighth day in a row in my new job? So if you've got a clear position description that accompanies, well, it should have been in the job advertisement to start, but then if you've got a clear position description that is given on induction at the same time as a letter of offer or an employment contract, it can really help alleviate some of that grey space when people join your organisation. And then we've got a little touch point on respectful communication. So this is a lot simpler than you might think. It's just the fact that treating everybody equally, respecting everybody's values, and understanding that people communicate in different ways. Some people are results orientated and appreciate just direct, straight down the line instructions, where some people are a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more empathetic, and will actually interpret that kind of communication as disrespectful, or it could be slightly intimidating if you've got somebody who comes in and just lists off, I want this, this, and this done straight away. You can interpret that as, oh, am I not being quick enough? Are they unhappy with me? So if you just make sure that you stylize your conversation just to respect people from all walks of life, you'll probably find that your culture will immediately become more cohesive, because everybody's actually feeling safe and quite happy to speak up, and feels that their opinions are valued within the workplace. And that will actually lock in together with consistent leadership as well, because communication being a key point of leadership, but having set processes around the way that you do things as well, and making sure that all of your leaders, whether it be yourself or whether you have supervisory staff, really adhere to that. Because if you've got, say, one set of ideals for one person, or whether you have a risk of maybe appearing to favour somebody, it can really damage the morale of your workplace, and then you end up with having team members feeling really undervalued. And it also helps that if you explain the task the same way to everybody, it keeps everybody on the same page as well. That way, that everything's performed correctly the first time, and that way you're also minimising mistakes and keeping that productivity level really moving along in a smooth and cohesive fashion as well. When we talk about recognition, a lot of people think around that as a lot of incentive based, or bonuses, or it could be trips or gift cards, anything like that. But recognition can actually just be as simple as a genuine acknowledgement. So many businesses I know just are really, really happy to let people coast along, and they'll pull them up when things aren't going so well. But just to say, hey, good morning, everybody, and hey, that was a fantastic job, or you've got a great review today, or we really appreciate that you've been digging in and giving your absolute all for us. It's amazing how much that can actually reflect that down the line. I had a employer once who made a point where there was about 35 staff in our workplace, and they made sure that they greeted every single person every single day, and where applicable also said goodbye to everybody as well. It's just those small things. If you have somebody just breezing in, breezing out, not even acknowledging their team, you soon feel undervalued and underappreciated. A key part of my role in workplace relations is assisting in addressing workplace issues. And one of the great things is nobody seems to like addressing issues early because it can be a daunting factor. I mean, performance management's never a pleasant task, but if you can address any issues in the workplace straight away, it's the same as the old adage of stitch in time. It saves it from ballooning out and becoming a more widespread problem. So if somebody's uh, missing a step in a procedure, for example, it's probably easier to actually address it quickly and just say, hey, in our induction, we went over this process and I know you're missing step number 4. Could you please just go back and go over it and just make sure we adhere to the steps? Give them a little rundown as to why and, make sure that everything runs smoothly, the job's done correctly the first time, and that way we don't have any gaps. And it just minimises frustration and having to redo the job down the track. So you're essentially killing, several birds with one stone there as well. And then when we link all these together, we touch on employees feeling supported. So if you outline all of those points and link them together, then you've got a really supportive workplace where employees know that you've got their best interests at heart, and the fact that you are going to invest your time and energy into them. And it works in circles around about. So if you put the effort into your workforce, then I'd say 99.9% of the time, then you're going to get that effort reciprocated. If we don't have any questions there, I'll move on to our next slide. So this is a key one. So I find that people don't leave jobs generally for higher wages, although a lot of people just seem to think that. It does happen, sure, particularly in a cost of living crisis, but it's not always the full story. So a lot of it is around the experience, whether it be, missing some of those previous points, whether it be lack of communication, lack of job clarity, their communication style just doesn't suit them. There could be a constant niggling frustration causing them stress. So I've just detailed those in a few points here. So switching back a little bit, so we've got the poor leadership. So that's if it's inconsistent. So poor leadership doesn't always mean that a leader's unpleasant. It could be that they're slightly overwhelmed as well. There's a lack of clear process, so they're forcing to be reactive rather than taking action. Sort of being one step behind all the time, which can be quite frustrating because then you're actually going to be diverted off your key role to make up for the gaps in other areas of the business. And nobody likes to be pulled backwards and forwards like a yo-yo. It can, particularly when you've got yourself a clear position description. You turn up to work expecting to make 500 widgets today, and in accordance to your KPIs, and then suddenly you've made 250 because you've had to go and help somebody else because the process broke down midway through. This can contribute directly to the second point as well. Burnout, particularly in small businesses, is quite huge. Touching back on that mental health point there as well, that's a big contributing factor to that one. If you're forced to carry excessive workload, whether you've got a really, really small team, for example, or if you're suffering from that constant turnover and you're always in that recruitment phase or training and onboarding, then it can really increase the workload across the board. And then when you start having people start experiencing burnout, then you're also going to incur costs around, for example, it could be mental health days, it could be just personal leave. It can actually contribute to more serious health conditions as well. Gone are the days where we actually just tell everybody to toughen up, as it were. Mental health is actually now generally recognised under the Work Health and Safety Act as a genuine injury. So it's something that needs to be really understood and properly managed in any workplace. Feeling undervalued, I did sort of touch on that before, particularly in your employee support network. That's where that really, coming in and greeting your staff and just giving that little bit of recognition. Too long, you've got your your unicorns, as we like to call them in the workplace, your amazing people, and they just go along and do their things. And sometimes they do get a little bit forgotten about because they're doing their job and you never actually have to check in on them. They can feel a little bit isolated. So it's always important just to make sure that you make that time to just have that touch point with everybody, whether it be a scheduled check-in or whether it's just something informal that you do as a matter of course, at least, depending on your business size and workload, but at least once a week, I would say, just to say, hey, how's things going? Is there anything you need? Do you need somebody to help you? Thanks, or, Joe Bloggs called the other day and just said that, over the last 6 months, he's felt so supported and, he wouldn't dream of going anywhere else. So, thank you very much. Lack of flexibility is a big one in this day and age as well. Since COVID, we've seen the rise of flexible work options, particularly working from home. Given that it's not tenable in all workplaces, some workplaces by their very nature are a hands-on role. Hospitality is a big one. There are some roles, of course, that can be performed remotely, but we can, define flexibility around many different ways, because work from home is only one, which is probably the most popular one, but it could be even somebody needing to adjust to part-time. It could be allowing a little bit of flexibility around start and finish times. You could allow personal appointments to be scheduled during working hours, particularly, specialist appointments, things like that. Those type of organisations generally run Monday to Friday. It's going to be very, very difficult if you're in a Monday to Friday business and schedule an appointment in your downtime. And it could also mean, things like 9-day fortnights. So there's a little bit of extended time off. So, people with young families can still have that critical bonding time, to spend with their loved ones. Poor communication was one we touched on briefly before as part of the poor leadership, but that's, as I said, not recognising the different communication styles, not proactively communicating any changes in the business, whether it be updated policy, procedure, whether it could be about structural changes, whether it could be, things around, it could be a Christmas closure. Somebody could be working 6 months of the year and then realise that all of a sudden they're going to actually have to take 2 weeks of their leave off over Christmas that they weren't aware of. And that can, cause quite a bit of insecurity and potentially cause a little bit of friction as well when things are just sprung on people. Most people will accept operational decisions in a workplace just as long as they're well informed and not having things just pop up out of the blue. And the last point there is a big one I find in the modern workforce is development opportunities. I sort of come from that era where probably at the end of the era where people joined an organisation and they stayed there for 40 years and they were quite happy, being the line worker. They'd go to work, they'd come home, and that was that. These days, people want a little bit more out of their job. They study, they learn, they want to grow, they want to be challenged. They don't want to stagnate and sit in one place. So if you've got a clear development pathway for everybody in your organisation, where applicable, of course. I do realise that this can vary. If you're a very small organisation, those opportunities may be limited, but it doesn't mean that you can't upskill or cross-skill staff to keep them interested. And it also helps fill those gaps when you're forced to either recruit or give some people some time off as well. And it also attributes to allowing flexibility because somebody can step in. Say a person needs to step out to go to one of those appointments. If somebody is borderlining on burnout, well, somebody could step in and give that person a little bit of extra time off. They could support the leadership to boost that as well. So if they're well versed in all aspects of your business, then you end up having a really, really strong team. Don't have any questions there. I'll pop into the next slide. So good culture doesn't need the big budget. So I did touch briefly on this before when we were sort of thinking about, the expensive perks, the shiny offices, the company cars, the wellness retreats up into the mountains that we see so many times on the international TV shows about the corporate retreats. But for small businesses, particularly in Tasmania, it's just not a reality. So it's more around making sure that we do the really small but consistent things that we can actually control within our workplace. So, the regular check-ins, as I said before, popping around and saying hello to everybody, checking in to see if there's anything they need. If you see that somebody's struggling, don't be afraid to go and ask the question discreetly, of course. Um, and recognizing the good work. So that's it. When somebody's giving their all or you're getting great feedback, it's not going to do you any good to leave those, or it used to be reports on the desk, but leaving those great reviews on Google. Tell your team, because there's nothing better than that warm and fuzzy feeling you get when you know that somebody is actually appreciating you. For those of us in the hospitality industry in the past, we used to get tips, but it's not a given across all industries. So just that small, hey, thank you, thank you very much, or even, you could extend something like, hey, you've done a lot for us recently. Would you like to have a day off in lieu, or you could pop in like birthday leave, or one great one I came across when I was visiting a workplace yesterday is they do anniversary of onboarding leave. So, hey, you've been with us for 12 months, that's fantastic. We'd love you to have the day off and or have this weekend as a long weekend. It's just those really little things just to really recognise the employee's contribution to your workplace. And getting around that improved onboarding process as well. So, as I said, having that really clear expectation and job clarity from the beginning. Just really makes everybody feel comfortable and confident in knowing what they're doing in the workplace is their role, and that they gives them the tools to really set themselves up to do it well. Setting themselves the employees up for success from the very beginning is what a really comprehensive onboarding process is around. It doesn't have to take days on end. It just has to be a structured process, whether it be a small checklist or just a little welcome pack, or that tailored buddy system with the appropriate person in the organisation to take them through the ins and outs of their particular role. Now, I mentioned those flexibility options, whether it be, as I said, the flexible start times, allowing, to go to appointments, I can only work till 2:30 daily because I need to pick the kids up from school Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. Offering those little incentives really hits home that, you are actually genuinely invested in working with your team to make sure that the job actually works for them as well as for you. And that's, in a nutshell, where we're looking at with good culture is we want everybody to feel a part of belonging. So when you recognise that employees have needs as well, they, will reciprocate that in leaps and bounds. We touched on fixing the frustrations and communication a little bit before as well, but just to sort of reiterate that, it's just making sure that we we nip those little problems in the bud early, so that way they don't snowball, leading to the burnout or extra stress, or having to make up for the lost time in the productivity sector. And communication is a big one as that as well. If you have an open and clear line of communication with your team, it's highly likely that they'll come to you and address those frustrations up front as well, rather than sitting on them and letting them simmer and boil over. Too often I've found that larger organisations, for example, people won't come forward because they feel like they're just a number, and if they say something, then it's either going to be met with hostility or just not acted upon because they go, oh, that just doesn't matter. It's not important. All data is good data is a motto of mine. So whenever you hear anything, a complaint isn't actually always a negative thing. It's an opportunity to improve and grow. Questions on that one? So just popping in to talk a little bit about staff wellbeing. This is another touch point around the mental health space. So making sure that you manage workloads. We don't want to, as I mentioned before, sometimes you have those unicorns, but we don't want to reward their great work by just piling absolutely everything you've got upon them, because that's just straight away a good way to burn out your great staff, and then we're going to end up with that productivity loss, the loss of cohesion in the team, and probably the gaps in the retention of customers as well. Because if, as I said before, if the customer has that key contact point and then all of a sudden they're overloaded and can't manage those relationships, then you're going to start losing those customers quite quickly. And that can be also managed by encouraging leave and downtime as well. Speaking of the organisation I actually went and met with yesterday, they are a construction company, and they actually have a golden rule that a lot of tradesmen, or sorry, tradespeople, go to them these days expecting to work a minimum of 60 hours, but they manage it by saying, no, we really prefer that you have a maximum of a 45-hour work week, and we'll offer competitive wages to make sure that that overtime that you've relied on in the past will make up for that. And it's really about managing fatigue risk, managing that psychosocial safety, managing any hazards that fatigue and burnout can bring as well. And that goes with the flexibility options as well, as I mentioned around, sometimes, it might not be necessary for somebody to work from home, but just giving them that little bit of a break, if they're a slightly quieter introverted person, that one day a week from working from home and they can really just knuckle down and do those admin tasks, for example, gives them a great sense of productivity, but as well as just gives them a little bit of a cooling off period from the noise in the office. Often the environments are dynamic and engaging, but they can be distracting to people who have a singular focus. I myself am that type of person. I can be easily distracted when there's a lot going on around me. So sometimes I do have to jump into one of our hot desk offices, particularly if I've got something that is very detail oriented, because otherwise I find that I may skip a step or two. And the psychosocial safety is a big one. So just making sure that you're aware of how your team are doing, whether you've got the ability to invest in a employee assistance program, or EAP for short. There are a lot of options around those. Some of them have an annual subscription service. Some of them are fee for service, so you can actually engage them as you need them, which is really helpful for a small business, because that way you're not actually carrying a 12-month retainer service and increasing your overheads as well. And having someone in your team trained in mental health first aid is also a great tool as well. We're a very small team at the TCCI at the moment, and I'm actually the mental health first aider, and I found the course absolutely fascinating. So it's a great investment, and there are some great low cost providers around there as well. I did see something being typed over there before. Did somebody have a question, or were you going to hold off there? Sitting there for now. So people like to stay where they can grow. So, this doesn't always mean that, they're going to get a promotion every year, or, a huge salary package every single year. But, often people just want to feel like they're learning, and growing and progressing. So, and this also matters from a employee attraction perspective as well. When you're renowned as an employer who offers opportunities to people, whether it's internal development or whether it's upskilling, and that you can go along and either start your own business as a result of the development, or whether you can help the business grow and develop your own position within the business as well. It's always a great thing. So we've got a few different pathways that we can assist people developing in your workplace. So you've got on-the-job training, which is one of the primary ones, which is that's being taught in the workplace, whether it be by yourself as the manager, or by your skilled employees or supervisors or managers. You can do that with one-on-one mentoring, or you can do that in a little bit of a group training pathway as well. Apprenticeship and traineeships are a huge one, particularly in the trade sector, and it's also a fantastic pipeline strategy as well. You've got industries struggling to attract experienced staff, so that can also help solve your attraction challenges, because people are actually already trained in the basics of the position, and then it also gives them that satisfaction of being able to grow and learn as they go through the business. And then a lot of the time as well, there's also the opportunity to keep those people on when they're fully trained. Some people do move on just by the nature of the business, But a lot of apprentices I find end up, being retained in the business, particularly, construction sector, manufacturing sector, mechanical sector, but even in a office environment as well. I've even had some apprentice chefs throughout the hospitality industry. I've actually left the hotels, and they're actually still working there, and they're either sous chefs or head chefs now. So they've you know, worked really hard to get where they are. They're really, really proud of their achievements. Um, TAFE pathways are quite a good one as well. I know TAFE's copped a little bit of flack recently, but they're still a fantastic provider, and they're quite often subsidised options as well. We can assist you in pointing you towards the right direction. Or I would imagine that the team at Business Tas would have some great connections there as well. As I mentioned about cross training before as well, it's reducing those single points of pressure. So that way, if you've got somebody who can step in, you don't have to have everybody a specialist in absolutely everything. But if everybody has at least a rudimentary knowledge of what everybody else does, they can at least step in, and with a little bit of coaching or mentoring, they could potentially help pick up any slack, or fill in for a person short term, should something go awry. And the clear progression opportunity. So that's just talking about developing those career pathways. So, it could be that you sit down and have a chat to the person during their interview and saying, where do you see yourself in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years time? Are you interested in exploring, higher duties, a supervisory role or a managerial role? I was approached when I was 21 to become an assistant manager, and I actually turned it down because I thought I was too young. And then I was approached again at 23, and I accepted the second time. So I've actually spent a lot more time in an administrative role in hospitality than I actually have on the front line. Probably one of the reasons why I did survive so long was the fact that I had such a broad variety of roles, everything from administration to rostering to fixing taps to stock control. So it's, those clear pathways can really assist in the attraction side of things as well. Do we have any questions there, or shall I continue on? I'm just being mindful of the time. It looks like we're getting towards the top of the hour, so I'll keep moving forward. So just 3 things that you could try in your business this week. So quite simple things. So just probably do it one-on-one if you like, if you're a small business, or if they're comfortable in groups. But just ask your staff if they're facing any challenges. Is there anything they need? Is there anything that isn't working properly? It could be the matter of the fact that the stationery cupboard stacked too high, or the office is always too cold. It could be any variety of things, not just operational things, but just things to promote the staff well-being. It could be the fact that somebody's on the phone a lot; they could use a private space, so their phone calls don't disrupt the rest of the workflow. And make sure you recognise those achievements as well. So it's really key just to even just go up and just say, hey, you said you've done an amazing job, and the team over at Business Tas, gave me a call and just said how remarkable that you've been, in helping us and fixing that frustration. So that's talking about getting that frustration fixed early as well. So if something's broken down, if somebody doesn't have the appropriate skills or tools to perform their role to the to the full potential, make sure that you actually invest and fix that. I mean, it could be equipment, it could be training, it could just be simply assigning someone to assist them for the half an hour during the peak time, just to get them over the line. And when you fix those little things, you'll find that the big things will also become significantly easier to manage. So just a final slide today is just a little checklist for you to just to make it stick, as it were. So it starts small. So we don't expect you to go out and tear your business's culture apart in one day. It may not even be required. You may have a great culture already. But if you just look at the small things, a lot of small things, are the components to the big things. So just pick one thing. And then once you start, just make sure that you remain consistent. So don't start by fixing one thing this week and then not fixing something else for 6 months. Just make sure that you keep the ball rolling. and make an innovation each week. Again, whether it be fixing the frustration, whether it be making sure that you recognise or check in with everybody weekly. Make sure you speak to your team as well. Many organisations, just by their very design, mean that the management team often can't actually see any operational challenges, so they actually rely on the team to bring them to their attention. So you need to make sure that they're confident in actually coming forward and raising the issues without fear of reprisal or the matter just being brushed under the carpet because they just think, they just think that I'm whinging again, I'm not going to worry about raising that. And just make sure that you keep measuring the progress as you go. So you've got a really clear plan and detailed strategy about how things are moving along. So you can go, hey, we fixed that this week and it's, improved our business by, 10%. Let's improve something else the next week and then keep adding on and keep adding on. And that way, by the end of it all, you'll have a really great strategic plan as well that you can implement, if you need to restructure or make your business grow slightly bigger, you can just lean back on that framework and you've already got it in place. And always keep improving. There's never room for stagnation in my opinion. Every time that you implement something that's better, you'll see the results and you'll be repaid tenfold by your team, I'm sure. Well, that brings us to the end today. So if anybody's got any questions, I'd love to hear them, and I will also hang around just after we stop the recording as well if anybody would like to have a private chat. And I'd just like to say a big thank you very much for everybody for taking the time out of your day to come and join us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Matt. That was very insightful. Appreciate your time today. And just to formally wrap up before we go into questions, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who joined today, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one.